Has anybody seen my zucchini?
John Evans of Alaska likes to grow vegetables, big vegetables, super big vegetables.
One rutabaga.
And not only are they big, his veggies are heavy.
Yeah.
John's broccoli weighs in at a healthy 35 pounds.
Beet. Pickled beets.
His beetroot,
There you go.
21.7 pounds. And the list goes on. John grows incredible carrots,
Carrot.
colossal cauliflower, and king-size kale. He's also got some very large leeks
Big.
and one very pudgy pumpkin.
Not eating no raspberries.
And how about this 45-pound wonder? It's the world's largest red cabbage.
Cabbage.
And speaking of world records, this towering tree, believe it or not, is actually a Swiss chard.
Or something like that.
Obviously, John takes his gardening very seriously, but at least he keeps his sense of humor.
Has anybody seen my zucchini?
Although the vegetables look like they've been fed steroids, John claims that lots of vitamins and hard work are the reason his crops blossom so big.
Here we have a turnip. Lots of turnip soup. And this one weighs 15, 18 pounds.
Yep, John Evans, who resides in the rustic outback of Alaska, grows giant veggies all right. So big that the Guinness Book of World Records has come a-knocking 9 times.
Well, this is a stonehead variety cabbage.
John estimates this cabbage to be a whopping 35 pounds. How big is that, you ask? Well, it would take 6 to 8 grocery store-sized heads to match just one of these gargantuans.
This is a leek. A little bit larger than you would normally see.
A little larger? That's a freak leek compared to the ones in my garden. So how does John grow humongous vegetables that, believe it or not, aren't stringy and taste delicious?
We're going to dig up a beet. It's going to be a fairly large one, I would say.
Is it giant seeds, chemical fertilizers, 20 hours of daily Alaskan summer sunshine? Don't have to dig very deep to see that John's plants are extremely well nourished.
Ah, here we go. There we are. Now, that's some leek.
Hey John, how about leaking the secret of big veggies? Like these Brussels sprouts, which last year grew to be the size of apples.
Notice on the leaves themselves, the glossiness of the leaves, this glossiness is a type of wax. That wax is where the plants can actually resist bugs from eating them. Slugs don't seem to like my plants, and aphids, many bugs. They just, they go next door.
Plants that don't have to fight off pests or diseases, like this humongous 46-pound celery, can put their energy into growing bigger.
There's enough Swiss chard here for a little meal for a big dinosaur. I would estimate that is at least over 60, maybe 70 pounds, because I have grown a 70-pounder before. This is a big plant. Here we have a zucchini. This is about 35 pounds, and you kids out there, if you are fed up with growing some pumpkins, how about growing a nice big zucchini for a change?
Sounds great, but how can I grow a zook that's 35 times bigger than a normal-sized one?
You want to have it in its own contained area, so, and a nice raised up area to hold the moisture and the warmth, get the sun to warm it up well. The other element you need to know is that you only just leave one zucchini on each plant. Now here is the secret to my success. Compost tea.
We know compost is good for the garden, but John says compost tea is even better if you want to grow bigger.
What happens in the soil is everything is stimulated with all the microorganisms to such a high point that they will give that plant the maximum food for its production. Well, here we have some carrots.
And more food for the soil means bigger, tastier, healthier veggies.
That's pretty nice carrot. Now we're ready to make compost tea. tea. Look at all those little micro bubbles coming up.
The air John is pumping into the water encourages the growth of millions of good or aerobic bacteria.
First we need to do is put in a small amount of compost. We will say for this amount, about 8 cups of compost.
Look at this beautiful compost. Into the bubbling bucket it goes. Now John has his own special blend of ingredients he adds, which contains, among other things, simple sugars. The tea brews for 24 hours. Then John mixes 5 parts water to 1 part tea.
The reason why it's called tea is because it looks like tea, but it doesn't act like tea.
Then he applies the liquid 2 ways, straight into the soil or on the leaves.
Get the foliage nicely wetted down, and this is what will cause a biofilm. This will protect the plant from diseases and insects.
Now for John, bigger veggies isn't always the goal, but a bigger bounty is.
This is where I'm going to have more fun than you can ever imagine.
John's a huge potato fan, and to guarantee a large yield, he sprayed the leaves and soil of each plant.
This is one plant now. Believe me, this is one hill, one plant.
So how many potatoes can you get from one plant?
Here they are. Here they come.
Here's a clue. The average plant will net 7 or 8, but as you may have noticed, John's plants aren't average.
Okay, we're bringing them in. Here we come into the mother lode. We're still going down for the deeper boys, down here. Now you can understand why I have so much fun. I mean, it just never seems to end. They're just coming up from all over the place. That's about, oh no, look at that potato. Isn't that such a pretty potato? That's it. No more. Here we've got, it's got to be about 40 potatoes. Good 40 potatoes in this plant.
Hard to believe 40 potatoes from one plant.
Today, the gold they're pulling up isn't necessarily shiny, but it is big.
Oh my God. So instead of Jack in the beanstalk, it's Jill and John in the beanstalk.
Exactly. So shall we go up and climb up and see where the giant is up there? It's way up there.
It's so high.
So it's a hobby.
Yes, up here, they tend to do things in a big way.
How does your garden grow?
Oh, I suppose like a sports arena. So let me go ahead and pull this one out and see how big this one. Yes, I believe this is about the size of a football.
It looks about the size of a football. Is it as heavy as one?
Oh,
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy beet.
Yes.
In his half-acre garden arena, we pulled onions the size of softballs, turnips the size of a basketball, stalks of Swiss chard like vaulting poles, and more. Talk about an aerobic workout.
Well, I'd say these are enough vegetables to feed about half the state of Alaska. Lower 48, eat your heart out.
But to master gardener John Evans, these giants aren't incredible at all.
I believe that plants, under the right conditions, this would be normal for a plant.
Okay, so John's concept of normal may be a bit ambitious, but so is his astonishing garden.
Everything in the garden is a big experiment.
Big being the key word, of course. Like a colossal cucumber.
It's about the size of my forearm. Maybe I should do some more weight training.
Or an extraordinary zucchini.
It's not a very small zucchini either.
A Romanesco broccoli sports magnificent peaks and valleys.
It's like a whole mountain range all wrapped in one vegetable.
Everything is massive.
Yeah, it's going to be about 25 pounds. Cauliflower, that could feed quite a few people.
John's garden feeds the record books too. He set 9 world records in the past decade, including biggest carrot, beet, and zucchini. So, what's the magic behind John's humongous harvest? Everybody's got a guess.
Land of the midnight sun, we have a lot of sun. Doesn't go down.
We have so much sunlight, so we get nice and big that way.
It's the sun, the growing season.
They seem to agree it's the sun.
No. That's a myth. It's a fallacy. They would be growing all these giant vegetables up in Norway and Sweden and Finland, and do you ever hear of anything? No siree, Bob. So I rest my case on that one.
John claims the secret is not the sun above, but the earth below.
Oh, the secret is all in the soil. It's like as if the soil is like this stomach. If you put the right foods into your stomach, you can then become like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what happens with these plants.
John's pumped up plants clearly respond to an organic concoction he calls Compost Tea. It's a special gourmet recipe John's been working on for years. With just the right combination of compost, micronutrients, and bacteria. A little bit goes a long way.
It's the equivalent to about maybe 500 to 1,000 pounds of compost.
Essentially, he's turbocharged his compost, and with it, everything else in his garden. A harvest this big requires a strong back.
See, it's pretty hard work. Oh, there's some weight to that one. It'll be a big one, you see. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Some weight to that puppy. There's some weight in that one. That's one leek plant right there. It is a pretty one. So we're going to replant it right in here.
These monsters are not just for show. They also make for good eating.
Zucchini bread, leek and potato soup, fried zucchini, good soup, zucchini this, good stew, zucchini that, stir fry, zucchini soup. Oh boy, just give me more.
John's veggies sometimes bring him rock star glory.
I've heard screams from ladies screaming at one another, saying, "You've got to come over here," and it's just like a concert.
And always satisfaction.
So here we are in the garden, ready to apply our compost tea. We've got some lovely kale plants, chard, broccoli, beets, cabbages. We got some peas back there. And we have our tea all ready to go and diluted in this container. And this is a nice row here. It's nice to have a mound because the sun and the water get greater exposure to the roots when you have a mound like this. So this is a perfect way to do a small garden. So you want to apply the tea right to the base of the roots there of your plant. And just a little bit, give it a little drink. So the nutrients in this compost tea from the fertilizer that we added and from the Alaskan humus soil are going directly into this plant via the microbiology that we brewed over the last 24 hours. And these nutrients are translating directly to the plant, which is what we're gonna eat. So essentially, you feed the soil, and the soil feeds your plants, and your plants feed you. It's a beautiful cycle of nutrients.
At Bounty, we're often asked, how do you make the best compost teas? And the answer is you start with the best quality water.
Organic Bounty is actively aerated compost tea, AACT. It is aerobically brewed with the oxygen pumping in and pumping all that oxygen into the water, making it very aerobic for all those aerobic microorganisms. There's a super high water quality. The tea is a water extract, so that's another aspect of actively aerated compost tea that's got to be in water. And then you have to start with really high quality compost. So the Alaskan humus soil is one of the highest quality compost that we know of. What that's doing is brewing the microorganisms, allowing them to get to high numbers over 24 hours. The reason we want these microorganisms is because they do all the action in the soil. The bacteria, fungi, they cycle all of the nutrients and make them bioavailable to the plant. The protozoa and the nematodes eat the bacteria and fungi and allow those nutrients to be released in that decomposition process. You feed the soil, and the soil feeds your plants. The only things plants really provide from photosynthesis is sugars. CO2 comes in, water comes in, light is transformed, and the plant produces sugar and oxygen. The plant creates these sugars to attract those microorganisms. The bacteria love these sweet, sugary exudates that the plants release. And so all these bacteria and fungi come in to support the plant with those microorganisms. The presence of the bacteria and fungi call in the protozoa and nematodes to come in. The protozoa and nematodes attract microarthropods and earthworms. And so there you have the soil food web, one trophic layer to the next, feeding each other in a nice nutrient cycle of alignment. So the bounty comes into play here because the bounty contains those bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes, along with all of those nice trace minerals and nutrients that your plants need. So really, you're making a living liquid soil with the bounty that you just applied directly to your plants. Another action of these microorganisms is they add structure to the soil. These sticky exudates allow the soil to hold on to nutrients and also hold on to water. So these microorganisms are highly important, and that's really what the secret in the soil is. These microorganisms. So the bounty is giving your plant an immune system, so to speak. If the microorganisms are there, then your plant has all of the nutrients and minerals it needs to ward off pests and disease. Also, a pest and disease situation is because one organism is outcompeting all of the rest. When you add diversity of microorganisms and diversity of foods, you can feed all of those other microorganisms, and so one doesn't take over and you don't have a disease or pest state. So your garden stays healthy and you don't have any takeover. Another thing about healthy soil is you can keep planting year after year. It gets better year after year. There's something called the Brix level, which is an indicator of the sugars in your plant. It also indicates how many nutrients are in your plant. We've done tests with the bounty, and the bounty contains twice as high Brix levels as normal organic produce found in your grocery store.
Mom, I'm gonna go take care of the garden.